Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I am David Pachuto, the Drunken Woodworker, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful little bandsaw box. This particular one is made out of Mexican ebony and it has a plywood core. I've also added a drawer pull for the front and I have flocked the inside of the drawer. Something that I do that most people don't do is I flock the inside of the box as well. What that does is create a tighter fit and has a nice easy open and close action. Now on mine, I added the CNC router inlay. You don't have to do that, and you don't need many tools to do this. The only tool that you must have is a bandsaw. Now a disc sander and a spindle sander definitely comes in handy and makes the process a lot easier. You can download the free plans for this box on my website, along with many other free plans and premium plans as well. So let's get started and let me show you how I did this. Generally, I don't like making the depth of my bandsaw box any greater than the height of my spindle sander. This will just make life easier for us down the road when it comes time to sand. So now it's time to glue up our blank. I have 5 pieces here that are 8 inches by 4 3/4 inches, and the height, or what will be the depth of the box, is about 4 inches. And my front piece has this router inlay that I did with my CNC. And if you want to see how I did that, you can check out this video here. Alright, so let's glue this guy up. This is one of those situations where the more clamps, the better. And I'm just trying to distribute the clamps evenly so there's pressure throughout. And there we go. Now we just need to let that sit and dry for a few hours. So now using some spray adhesive, I'm going to attach my printed template to my blank. Then we'll take that over to the bandsaw and cut out the outside shape. Cut as close to the line as you can without touching it. We'll then sand down to the line later. I'm using a 3/16 inch blade with 4 teeth per inch that I got from Highland Woodworking. Alright, so now that we get the outside shape of our bandsaw box cut, you might be tempted to sand this down. Let's not do that just yet. Our next step is going to be to cut the back off. And then I'm going to cut in about a 1/2 inch. And I've installed a 1/2 inch resaw blade on my bandsaw. Now this isn't necessary, but this gives me a much cleaner cut. And so I'm going to use this good blade here. And I've also got a fence set up here that I will just run my bandsaw box along the fence there. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now I switch back to my smaller blade. It is a 3/16 inch blade, 4 TPI skip tooth blade from Highland Woodworking. It's by far the best blade for this job. Now we're going to cut out the inside drawer of this. On the outside, we cut just to the line. For this one, we're going to do a little different. The inside line here is thicker and we're going to split it down the middle. And also, we're going to enter from the side so we can go with the grain, and that's going to hide our insert point when we glue it back up later. So let's do this. Now as you can see, I had a little trouble staying within the red line there. So I came out on this side over here, I was on the outside of the line, so I tried to reproduce that and come on the outside of the line over here just to make it very symmetrical. And one of the toughest parts is getting this back out. And there we go. Alright, so currently we have three pieces. We have the outside, the back, and then the drawer. And what we need to do next is glue up the outside, and we're going to do that in two stages. This little kerf that we cut in here from the bandsaw, we need to glue this shut. So I'm going to put some glue in there, clamp it down, and then let that dry for about an hour. And then after that dries, we're going to glue and clamp the back on, and that will complete the outside of the box. Now I'm going to flock the inside of my box, so I don't need to sand, but if you don't plan on flocking the inside, you'll need to sand this down now because it'll be much easier. And so after we glue that up, we can get started on our drawer. So let's start gluing this puppy up. Alright, so now we're going to work on the drawer. I've gone ahead and installed a 1/2-inch blade in my bandsaw and put on my resaw fence. Now I'll just make two passes. I'll go ahead and cut off the front, and I'll flip this around and then go ahead and cut off the back. Then I'm going to reinstall my 3/16" blade, take the middle piece and scoop out what will be the inside of the drawer, and then we'll glue this all up. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the inside piece and I'm going to draw a line around the edge here to determine what will be the thickness and the inside of my drawer here. Then I need to determine what my edges are going to be, so I'm just going to bring this line up here. And I'll just cut this out on the bandsaw, and this will be my waste piece. So now that I put my 3/16" blade back in the bandsaw, I'm going to cut out the waste piece on my drawer. Here we go. Alright, so there's the drawer. And then the next steps will be to glue on the front and then glue on the back, and that will complete our drawer. And once again, I'm going to flock the inside, so I don't need to sand, but if you don't plan on flocking the inside, now would be a great time for you to sand that inside while you have that open up. Alright, so let's glue this up. And I do want to make sure that I get this aligned up perfect, because that will ensure that we get a nice tight fit and that our grain lines will line up like they're supposed to. Okay, so now our drawer is done, and while we still have the template on here, I'm going to make a little divot here where the handle is going to go. And I want to do this before I take off my template. So now we'll glue the back on to the outside. Alright, now we'll just let that sit and dry for about an hour. So now we're going to sand the drawer in a disc sander. And we just want to sand away the marks left by the bandsaw blade. You don't want to remove too much material, because the more material that you remove, the looser the drawer will be. So let's get started. And now we'll tackle this bottom curve on the spindle sander. Okay, for the outer part of the box, we're going to sand down to the line that we have here in the template on the disc sander. So now I'm going to round over the edge with a file. I prefer doing this with a file than a router bit, just to keep the round over profile very, very slim and very small. And then some final sanding with my random orbit sander. And so now it's time to finish the box. I'm going to use a blend of boiled linseed oil and polyurethane. If you'd like to see a video of how I do this, you can watch that here. Also be sure to not finish the inside because we're going to flock that later, and the inside of the drawer, and we're going to flock that later as well. Okay, so before we begin flocking, I want to tape off the outside areas so we don't get any of the flocking material where we don't want it. Alright, so now that we got that all taped up, we can start flocking the inside. Okay, so this can get very messy, so I like to use a cardboard box to contain all the flocking fibers. First thing we're going to do is we're going to load up our flocking gun with some fibers. This comes in all kinds of different colors. I prefer black myself. It's extremely important that you wear a dust mask while doing this because these fibers are light and they will get into the air. Okay, so now we'll take our flocking adhesive, which also comes in different colors, and you want to match the fibers, so I have black here, and I'll just use a little brush and coat the inside of my box here. Okay, so now that I have the inside of the box thoroughly coated with the adhesive, I'm going to use what's called the little mini flocker and gun it into the inside. So make sure you have your dust mask on when you do this. I like to roll the fibers around and make sure all areas are coated. You don't want to see any wet spots in there. And then I'll knock out the excess. So now I'm going to repeat the same process for the inside of my box. Since we use a box to contain all our flocking fibers, we can reuse this. So I will collect this and put it back in the bag. Okay, so after this dries for 24 hours, you can then take an air compressor and blow out any of the excess fibers just floating around in there. So for the knob, I drilled a hole with my Forstner bit partway down the front of my box. And I'm just going to epoxy a knob that I found at my hardware store in place here. Well, thank you for watching today's video on how to build this bandsaw box. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And be sure to subscribe because I put out new project videos every Friday. And every Tuesday, I put out a video called the Weekly Woodworking Wrap-Up Review where I highlight other woodworkers doing cool things in the craft. Thanks again.